This is macOS Ken.
Features for watchOS, tvOS, and visionOS 26's. WWDC elicits tepid responses from Wall Street. Meanwhile, the Appleverse seems kinda stoked. It is Wednesday, the 11th of June, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Monday marked the start of another remote WWDC. Yesterday, we looked at changes and announcements from Apple's opening address around Apple Intelligence, the company's new design language, the new numbering convention for Apple's operating systems, and features on the way for iOS 26, iPadOS 26, and macOS 26. Today, we will do the other three big operating systems. We'll also eye reactions from Analysts and Apple Watchers. Taking a look at watchOS 26. Yes, it's got liquid glass going on. That's Apple's new design language for operating systems and applications, in case you missed yesterday's macOS Ken and Monday's keynote and the entirety of the Apple-focused web. On Tuesday, I mentioned a feature about which I am really excited in watchOS 26. According to Apple's Associated Press release, Workout Buddy is a first-of-its-kind fitness experience with Apple Intelligence that incorporates a user's workout data and their fitness history to generate personalized, motivational insights during their sessions based on data like heart rate, pace, distance, activity rings, personal fitness milestones, and more. Basically, Apple Intelligence will analyze health and workout data privately and securely, according to Apple. Once it's done that, a new text-to-speech model will translate insights into a dynamic generative voice built using voice data from Fitness Plus trainers, so it has the right energy, style, and tone for a workout. Now, there is one bit I find kind of annoying. When I walk and very occasionally run, I have my headphones paired to my phone. Apple's press release says Workout Buddy will be available on Apple Watch with Bluetooth headphones and requires an Apple Intelligence-supported iPhone nearby. If I'm reading that right, it means I have to take my phone so my watch can talk to Apple Intelligence, but I have to listen to my watch, not my phone, which is where all of my audio lives. I'll give it a try. Maybe it'll work out. Workout Buddy will be available starting in English across some of the most popular workout types, according to the company. Now, one thing that does give me hope for having my headphones listening to my watch, there's an addition that lets users set up music and podcasts right in the workout app to automatically play when they start a workout. Additionally, the release says Apple Music can now select the best playlist for a user's workout based on workout type and their personal tastes. As for other new features, Smart Stack will apparently get smarter, live translation and messages with Apple Intelligence will hit Apple Watch, provided the associated iPhone can do the Apple Intelligence thing. There's a new gesture for managing notifications if your Apple Watch is relatively recent. When a user raises their wrist to check a notification but isn't ready to respond, Apple's press release says they can quickly turn their wrist over and back to dismiss the notification. They can, that is, if they have an Apple Watch Series 9, Series 10, or an Apple Watch Ultra 2. The Notes app will hit the wrist, letting users access, pin, and unlock notes, complete checklist items, and create new notes with Siri, dictation, and the keyboard, and that list does go on. By now you may be wondering, will my watch do all of that? By itself, no. According to a piece from Apple Insider, watchOS 26 will run on Apple Watch Series 6 or later, the second generation Apple Watch SE, and both models of Apple Watch Ultra, provided they're paired with an iPhone 11 or later and provided that that phone is running iOS 26. That said, while Apple Watch works with Apple Intelligence, can't do that on its own. Apple Insider goes on to say Apple Intelligence features will require a compatible iPhone, which currently includes the iPhone 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, and all iPhone 16 models. The iPhone must also have Apple Intelligence turned on and Siri and the device language set to the same supported language. Moving now to the parlor. Apple's press release on tvOS 26 heralds a big redesign, and they're not just talking about liquid glass. I mean, they do. A lot. It's going to be on the TV. Additionally, though, the release says the Apple TV app has new poster art that allows more shows and movies to be displayed, enhancing discoverability, according to the company. Users will also have the option of displaying profiles when waking Apple TV, which I gotta say is gonna be great. The special lady friend and I have each screwed up the other's recommendations and watch list by punching buttons without realizing that we weren't in our own profile. There are also said to be improvements to the Sing feature in Apple Music on tvOS 26. People will be able to use their iPhones as their microphone for the karaoke-esque activity. Sing will also support lyrics translation and pronunciation, new to Apple Music with the next big round of updates. FaceTime for Apple TV also sees improvements, including contact posters with a contact's customized photo and name when starting a FaceTime call, expanded languages for live captions, and on-screen notification about who's trying to FaceTime or call the viewer by phone, assuming it's their profile that's active on the Apple TV. Also, new aerial screensavers, as well as ways to hide certain screensavers, rather than blocking the whole blessed category. And now, what's going to become a standard question. Will it work on your Apple TV? According to a piece from Mac Rumors, tvOS 26 is compatible with all Apple TV HD and Apple TV 4K models, though older models will not get liquid glass. That is reserved for the second and third generation Apple TV 4K. Now, I had said yesterday that there were truly exciting features for watchOS and visionOS about which to tell you today. For watchOS 26, it was Workout Buddy. For visionOS 26, it's widgets. The way the visionOS press release explains it, with visionOS 26, widgets become spatial, integrating seamlessly into a user space and reappearing every time they put on Apple Vision Pro. Put a clock on the wall, it stays there. A weather widget, a photo, a music widget. The widgets are said by Apple to be customizable with a variety of options for frame width, color, and depth. The release says users can decorate their spaces with favorite widgets, including stunning panoramas and spatial photos of their favorite memories, clocks with distinctive face designs, and quick access to their go-to playlists and songs on Apple Music. The Widgets app helps users find widgets, including those from compatible iOS and iPadOS apps, and developers will also be able to create their own widgets using WidgetKit. And I thought I wanted an Apple Vision Pro before. This is the kind of stuff that used to feel magical on our Macs before we had them for about 40 years, or on our iPhones before we had those for about 20. I stand by my statement from a couple of weeks ago. AR glasses will be the thing that replaces smartphones, driven, I think, by like magic features like this. Assuming we don't destroy the planet first. There are much improved personas. There are improvements to spatial photos being leveraged into something called spatial scenes. There's support for 180-degree, 360-degree, and wide field of view content shot on Canon, GoPro, and, hey, here's a funny one, Insta360. No, they're not sponsoring today's show. There's support for spatial browsing on Safari. And finally, making one friend and listener to this show very happy, there is support for Sony's PlayStation VR2 Sense controller. The question now, of course, will visionOS 26 run on your Apple Vision Pro? I'm kidding. There's only one model of Apple Vision Pro, so yeah. In considering Wall Street's reaction to Apple's WWDC announcements, unmoved or unswayed might be good words to choose. As Business Insider put it, Wall Street analysts said Monday's announcement suggests a transitional and more incremental year for Apple, with no killer AI feature in sight. Hey cool, we're back to evolutionary, not revolutionary. Far out. Quoting analysts from Barclays, we were not expecting much from the annual WWDC keynote, but we're still slightly disappointed at the content and features announced Monday. We view changes to all device operating systems and Apple Intelligence as incremental and not enough to drive any upgrade cycles. Thinking along a similar line was UBS analyst David Vogt. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote, quoting Vogt, Apple made a number of software-related announcements at its annual developer conference, marking the second year in a row where WWDC was largely software-focused and in our view unlikely to drive iPhone demand. We believe consensus iPhone revenue estimates over the next 4 quarters are too optimistic. That said, he and his were turned on by Apple opening its on-device LLMs to developers. Quoting Vogt in a note he wrote, with more creators working with Apple Intelligence, we see a higher likelihood of more compelling use cases emerging at some point in the future, but not enough to drive near-term purchase intent. Many of the AI features announced were more incremental in our view and already available through competitor applications. More excited about Apple and AI was Morningstar tech analyst William Kerwin. Business Insider had him saying, Apple's artificial intelligence rollout has been protracted and still lacks better Siri integration, but we believe AI is helping Apple develop new and convenient features more quickly. JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee saw reasons of his own for investors to be disappointed. He thinks they'd have liked to hear when Apple Intelligence will roll out in China, when Apple's more personalized Siri will be a realized Siri, and when additional third-party AI partners will be rolled in. He's still overweight on Apple, though, with a price target of $240, so didn't wreck him. Evercore analyst Ahmed Daryanani says it's unlikely anything at the event changed anyone's view on the stock. And Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives, not as cheery as we're used to hearing him be. Quoting parts of his note, overall, WWDC laid out the vision for developers, but was void of any major Apple Intelligence progress as Cupertino is playing it safe and close to the vest after missteps last year. We have a high level of confidence Apple can get this right, but they have a tight window to figure this out, and that will be the focus of investors the next year. The way he sees it, Apple may be forced into doing some bigger AI acquisitions to jumpstart its AI strategy, and yet he and his believe that this event has planted the initial seeds for Apple's AI strategy into 2026 and beyond as Apple looks to further integrate AI across the ecosystem. Still, time is ticking, according to the analyst, and investors' patience is wearing thin. I gotta say, one wants to blame the disappointed investors themselves for their disappointment. I mean, it is a developer conference, after all. Thing is, though, you can't really blame the analysts. Apple used to announce new iPhones at WWDC, and new Macs, and new iPads. I'm pretty sure they announced new iPads at WWDC. 2 years ago saw the announcement of Apple Vision Pro, while last year had the promise of Apple Intelligence. How could investors not be disappointed? This is the first WWDC in years that didn't have Apple swinging for the fences. Personally, I'm glad they just tried to get on base, if I can stretch that sports analogy a tiny bit. The past 2 years especially were disappointing. Apple Vision Pro is amazing, and you know I think it is leading to a big part of the capital F future. It is not priced to move, which is likely why we hear so little about it. Meanwhile, while last year's Apple Intelligence teases were likely earnest and honest, swing and a miss. Though you could argue they ended up with a walk, not a strikeout. And don't worry, I'm done with the sports lingo. Engadget says the 2025 WWDC announcements felt like a course correction. At the keynote, the site says Apple offered up a number of features that will actually likely be noticed and used by more people, whether we're talking about the redesigned iPad multitasking system or a ton of new customization options for the iPhone. And when Apple Intelligence was mentioned, it felt less like fixes to problems no one has, and more like smart tools that could actually make your life easier. Daring Fireball had Stratechery's Ben Thompson writing. While I understand why many people were underwhelmed by this WWDC, I think it was one of the more encouraging Apple keynotes in a long time. Apple is a company that went too far in too many areas and needed to retreat. Focusing on things only Apple can do is a good thing. Empowering developers and depending on partners is a good thing. Giving even the appearance of thoughtful thinking with regards to App Store is a good thing. Of course, we want and are excited by tech companies promising the future. What is a prerequisite is delivering in the present. And it's a sign of progress that Apple retreated to nothing more than that. When I was talking to Dave Hamilton of Geek Gab earlier this week, we both agreed that this felt like a developer conference aimed at developers. And to them I say, on your mark, get set, go. macOS Can, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOScan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOScan at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macoscan.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Leonard likes this post.